Welcome to Taking the Rams by the Horns, a podcast that takes current affairs out of current affairs. This is a multiple award-winning podcast thanks to you in partnership with Sowetan Live. I'm your host, Rams Mabote. Now I'm going to tell you something. I've done talk radio for a long time, and I've been gone out of it now for about 6-7 years. And there's a fellow I've been listening to for all these years, and I'm like grateful I left. Like, I don't know how he manages what he does. I'm not sure I went through what they go through. I mean, talk show listeners are crazy. Long before we talk about the guests that we host who hardly ever answer what we ask them, and they waffle and they don't realize that we are governed by time and stuff like that. And this fellow, I mean, look, I still don't know why I listen to him, but I follow him everywhere. When I first listened to him, he could wake up at midday and do his show, in the afternoon. It was a drive time show, and then he had to now wake up at midnight to do the 6 o'clock show, and then now he's waking up at 6 p.m. because he's doing the 8 p.m. show. Like, crazy, but it's still the same. Thabiso Tema, my guest from Power FM. Like say.
Who's it? Rams Mabote.
Who's it?
Rams by the horns. I'm finally here. I wasn't actually sure what it takes to crack an invite onto this.
I wanted to put you on video.
Ah,
you got face for radio,
looks.
but video will work even better.
It's great to be here. Thank you for finally inviting me.
Thank you for coming, mate. I truly appreciate. But God, your life has changed so many times. I forgot to. He also does TV, by the way.
Yes.
Like in the middle of all these things, he'll be working on radio.
Yeah.
Then he has to dash to studio to do TV. But at least he does faceless TV still. Now I'm putting his face on TV.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, man. Like I keep saying to people, in terms of where you find yourself on radio, what show you do, we are like disciplined cadres of the movement.
Isn't it just?
When they deploy you to midnight, you go to midnight.
But there must be something. There must be, I think, while it is deployment, I see it as a vote of confidence when they can trust that you can take on a show that is completely different from what you're doing, a time slot that's completely different, and actually do it for years. I mean, I've been chuffed. When you left drive and came to the morning, I said, hey, morning is different from afternoon drive. Guess what? Stay there for how many years? Morning?
Actually, so I did on Power. I did morning
first, right?
No, I started on drive.
Yeah.
And then I was there for the longest time. I was on drive.
Yeah.
And then I had my first stint on breakfast. I would think it would about been 2015 or so, 2015, 16, because there was a time when I was doing the breakfast show at the same time as I was editing Destiny Man magazine.
Yes,
so,
I remember that time. Yeah.
With
and you never featured me, but let's not digress. I thought I was going to be on the cover.
You see, one thing about Rams is that you see, Foster. You have to, and after Foster, you get nowhere.
You get nowhere, man.
Yeah, if you don't push yourself, you don't. Yeah, I'm sure eventually we would have gotten around to you. But yeah, that was my first stint on breakfast, with the result that actually. That because I was doing it with the same time as I was doing that Destiny Man gig, it was an incredibly mad time in terms of the workload.
Yeah.
It was a case of really biting off more than I could chew. But there was no ways I could have said no to, especially the Destiny Man opportunity when it came along.
Yeah.
Although I say that, I almost did say no because I was like, yo, Mabeli, while I have worked as a contributor on various publications.
Yeah.
I've never been an editor. So this is like uncharted waters. And so I said when Kanye approached me, I said like, wow, I'm most flattered that you would even think of me, of all people.
Yeah.
But wow, let me give it some thought because I was completely overwhelmed by the request. So let me give it some thought. But my gut feel, my instinct at the time was to say no. Purely because I was thinking, am I going to be able to manage the load?
But I know, other than the load, what you thought about, which is completely different now compared to 30 years ago. Because you thought, but I'm not a print journalist.
Yes.
Right? You thought about those things.
Yes, of course.
Editing now is no longer about that. Really. He's actually managing a brand more than just being a guy who goes through copy and sends people to stories and stuff like that. Yeah.
Well, you say that, but I actually ended
Well,
up
I'm sure it's a small
doing
magazine. You had to
copy.
do copy. Yeah.
No, plenty of it, and I had to write a feature.
Yeah.
Our cover feature was written by the editor at the time, but so my instinct at the time was to say, no, man, this is going to be too much. Then I said, nah, let me go and consult on this one. So I went to the wife and asked her, hey man, these people have just come to me with this. And then she says, oh, cool, great,
Yeah.
And I was like, I was about to say no. She says, what, are you mad? I was like, honestly, because I was
like we're moving from Boxer to Woolworths.
you know
What's your
I'm
problem?
saying? So, obviously I wanted everything to, the association with that brand, what Kanye had built at the time. So when she said, you're crazy, when are you ever going to get an opportunity like this? You'll make it work, And yeah, okay, I was like, all right, actually, you're right about the fact that these kind of opportunities don't come along every day. So I took it on, and but my goodness, it was a lot.
Yeah.
It was a tough time. So much so that I remember more of my time at Destiny Man into that period when it was overlapping with my breakfast than I do of the breakfast show. Yeah, my feet never touched the ground, I often say to people, when I was doing breakfast the first time. And it was such a pity because, when you work on radio, the ultimate is to, it used to be that the ultimate is to do the breakfast show.
Yeah.
That is the main show of any radio station.
Talk radio station, mostly.
Talk radio station, but I would like to think music stations also,
I suppose,
But that's when you have your biggest audiences. People are in the car and all of that. So that is why.
And nowadays, even on the trains, they're listening on.
This is what that's the thing now, and that's
if the trains are working.
And that's the only time that people can actually listen to the radio.
Yeah.
And still be on the go.
Yeah.
Is, you're going to work, you're getting your kids ready for school, and that sort of stuff. So that's why it has, and then the drive time show in the afternoon as well.
Yeah.
Again, people commuting home and all of that. So, yeah, in the end, it was just, it was a lot. I have zero regrets about either of those decisions, taking on the breakfast show challenge, and then because soon after I was told I'm going to be doing the breakfast show, then this offer came along. Jeez. And I was like, okay.
The stars were aligned, right? It looked like a difficult thing, but actually it was.
But I was like, okay, this is exciting. This is interesting. So it was a whirlwind couple of years. I think I was on the breakfast show for, my God, I think I actually ended up only doing it for a year, if I remember. And it was even at the end of that year, I was like, phew.
So, again, it was then being deployed to drive.
Back to drive.
Yeah.
Back to drive. And then So, going back to drive was no big adjustment for me. I still carried on doing both, by the way, drive and Destiny Man.
Which is slightly better, right? You can wake up and go to the office and be editor.
Yes.
And
which is how I think it worked better when I was in the afternoon, because I would start there at Destiny Man in the mornings and then make my way through to Power at around midday. But it also, but it still meant a long day. The day was still a fairly long day.
It sounds like migrant labor kind of stuff. When did you get time for family?
You raised that, and at the time, I wasn't doing at the time I wasn't even doing the school pickups. Now I'm doing it.
Now you can do that kind of stuff.
Now I can do that kind of stuff. At the time, there was zero chance of that happening.
Jeez.
So, and then I would have the
Then you have to do television
on the weekend.
On the weekends, right?
Was,
some of it traveling.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, quite a bit of it traveling. So when you actually think about it that way, it was insane.
Wow.
Insane.
But you see, this is what I sometimes feel people don't appreciate about broadcasters generally, right? And you, of all people, I know have been the biggest victim of being attacked. Yeah, you taking all the jobs and stuff like that. And then people don't appreciate what it comes with, but also people don't appreciate most of these things are not full-time jobs.
No.
We are hustling in a lot of places, and it's pay as you go. If you're not there, you're not getting paid. It's as simple as that.
As simple as that.
Whereas if you have got an office job, on the 25th, you're going to get an SMS that you got paid.
You got paid. Yeah. So the first time I had a gig on radio where it wasn't what you describe, where I wasn't getting paid. When you're not there, you don't get paid.
Yeah.
Was actually when I got to Power, because when I joined Power, I joined as a permanent member of staff.
Lucky. I mean, I know a few people who got in there, but the majority of us have always been freelancers. Yeah.
I was a freelancer before that, because I worked for years at the SABC.
Yeah.
And there's only that's the only type of contract they had at the time when I was there. 1 year contract renewed
every year.
10 years.
Every year. Saudi changed it.
And gave people 3 year contracts.
Yeah, I was lucky. I was in that space.
I missed that shit.
I was in that space when it made it 3 years, right?
And but still without a retainer.
No retainer.
So
it was still like...
So that actually it's a meaningless contract, 3 years, because...
Well, at least I knew I got the gig for 3 years, but I'm still paid only when I'm in the
That's what I'm saying.
studio.
They could say to you, okay, we'll give you the... Okay, well, the radio maybe it was different because they say, we're giving a 3 year contract to do this show.
Yeah.
So then at least that way you are guaranteed.
I know I've got this show, yeah.
But now, if you are because on TV it worked the same as well, where if you are, we will pay you per game.
Yeah.
So, but we'll give you a 5 year contract. I mean, it's meaningless unless I get games.
Unless you get games.
So then weekend comes, I don't have a game. My 5 year contract means nothing. So that was, and that is something that I think. Look, I think the broadcasters will argue that, especially SABC, that hang on, but we are only taking you for 5 hours out of a day. We can't be giving you the benefits of a full-time employee, whether it be medical aid or whatever.
And you see, they're talking about the 5 hours on air.
Yeah.
They're not talking about what happens in prep, post-production, when you're discussing with the producers and stuff. They don't count those hours. They count only the hours when the mic is on.
Yeah. That's the problem with it. With that arrangement is that...
I wish your listeners could listen to this conversation, because every time they do that to you, I get so frustrated. Like, guys, do you know what happens in that space? And you know,
that thing, I think that when one person came at me with that whole thing, it's like, you know, it's like telling Patrice Motsepe must have one job. How come you never accuse Patrice Motsepe of taking all the jobs?
Everything,
you know? Because essentially what Patrice Motsepe does, he's got many businesses. Yeah. You know, he's not got many jobs. So
in fact, he's more aggressive than us.
Exactly. Yeah. You know, how many companies does he own? Yeah. You know,
and I won't be shocked that he's going to be the 30% shareholder of Starlink, but let's not digress.
Yeah, that's... So... no one ever says to Patrice Motsepe, why do you have so many jobs? You know, and in the same way, as a broadcaster, I am also like somebody with multiple companies, or I offer a service.
Yeah,
that's what people
that's all you're doing. Right? Yeah. In fact, I mean,
some people like Power utilizes my service. At any given time, then I'll have Super Sport utilizing my service.
There's a guy's gonna call you and say, "Be an MC."
Yeah,
you know, that's what you do. Yeah. And then there are few weeks that go with nothing happening. Exactly. That means there's no money in the bank. Exactly. It's as simple as that.
And by the way, my doing all these multiple jobs doesn't stop anybody else, by the way. You know.
Yeah.
From offering the same sort of skill. If you think of me as a service provider, then you will, disabuse yourself of the idea.
Well, they will not, because they've decided that you're having an unfair advantage over everybody else. So, sometimes I ask myself, Thabiso, man, is he pretending or is he really having fun? Because sometimes I sit there, especially now with the guests, and I'm thinking, damn it, I would be so frustrated with this guy at this moment. Look, I suppose I did the same. I would ride along. Which part most is this? It makes you hit your head against the wall. About the job, radio in particular.
Because of the nature of the beast, as you know, is that you get people with all kinds of ideas, and they're very convinced of their ideas. Yeah. That's the most difficult part, is the stubborn nature of a talk radio listener. Well, I suppose of human beings. We all have convinced that our viewpoint is right. And which is okay, by the way, to be convinced that my viewpoint is right. It's okay. The challenge comes when they want to be flexible about facts. That is frustrating. Now, where I'm supposed to argue with a person, or I'm not even trying to argue at that point. You just try to show them the other facts.
Or the facts, actually.
Actually, what you are saying is not fact. Yeah. Even though you're putting that is the most frustrating part, I think, of
you're trying to do it with respect.
Yes.
You're trying to do it not to alienate them.
Yeah.
You're trying to make sure that the listeners don't see you as a hostile person and still watching the clock.
Yeah.
Like, all these things.
Exactly. So I think also it's a cultural thing, you know, Ramo. I think there are parts of the world where, I mean, I listen to talk radio as well in other parts of the world, and they would not. They actually tell someone, you're talking absolute rubbish.
Exactly.
They will be bold as to say, you are talking utter rubbish. If you said that to a listener here, they'll be coming for you. He says, that guy's rude, Mkari, take him off air. You know, that kind of stuff.
Why do you still have this guy on air? You know?
That kind of stuff. You know, so there's cultural nuances that you have to appreciate. Like, the person you're talking to on air, or this guy is somebody older. You know, you can't be as harsh with them because of our culture. You know,
who's that woman who passed on? She never liked me, and I was actually just as a listener. But I would, you know, I'm a passive. I don't call, but I tweet or stuff like that. Who's that woman? She used to call into your show, man.
I was Moronga.
Hey, she didn't like me much because I always like, this woman is crazy. There's no such.
And Osmoroga is another one, bless her, so who was very set in her ways.
Blind.
And defended her movement to the hilt. But so people. So I couldn't say it.
I'm glad I did it as a listener. A lot of times I would like, I was a memorable icon.
I remember she reminded me of somebody I know, but I know she was also one of those feisty women, you know.
She was.
Very feisty, but very interesting characters like that.
I may seem like I'm going back to the same subject, but something slightly different. How much do you think people appreciate your job? In that at one moment you could be speaking to President Cyril Ramaphosa, and the very next moment you're speaking to a comedian, and the next one you're speaking about autism, you know, and then you have to, well, in my best of times of you, have fun with Lebogang Phukela.
You know, Rams, you know, you were saying that people are probably asking whether is this guy pretending or is he actually genuinely having fun. I think there's certain things that you can't fake, eh?
Yeah.
And one of those is when people come across a certain way on the radio or in any medium, you can tell when somebody is real and when somebody is fake. So I never set out to portray a character or to be something. What you see and what you hear is exactly who I am.
Yeah.
And I think that's what makes my life easy. I'm not trying to be somebody I'm not. So, and I think the same applies even with yourself. With the person that you are when you're on the radio or when you're on a platform like this is exactly the same person. No, nothing would surprise me.
Yeah.
When I met her, I
didn't know. Exactly.
No, so what they see and what they hear is exactly what
all
they
the same,
hear.
all the time.
And I think for me, when somebody is genuine, you really can't fake that. There are people, politicians, that you can see this one is just honestly just talking rubbish to us. You know, like we're making, you know, the fake humility that they all are masters of. Yeah. You know, people are not fooled by it as well. You know, people can hear, they can see when somebody is putting on an act. You know, or
like, no, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Comrade.
You know, like, we can't have this happening to our people. But that time you are implicated in all manner of corruption.
Exactly.
You know, so people know. Well, unfortunately, it seems that the majority of people maybe they don't know because they keep voting the same politicians back into power. Yeah. So but going back to the point that you're making is that no, I mean it's the chemistry that whether I'm with Lebogang Phukela or with anybody else, it wasn't put on. Phukela is somebody I get on with off air as well.
Yeah.
You know, we have a good relationship, so it makes it
easier.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Phukela has redefined, you know, well, I mean, traffic reporting is still the same, but we no longer listen to his traffic. We're waiting for something else, right?
Say the other things
exactly.
Like, hey, this thing, how that traffic,
you know,
can you just get on with the train?
I mean, even the quips that he throws in the middle, like, it's just amazing.
Yeah.
Right?
No, he's that guy.
I think he missed his calling.
It is genuinely, he definitely did.
Yeah.
He's a proper funny. He's just naturally funny guy.
And he supports Chelsea. I mean, but let's not go there yet.
Yes.
We're gonna get there.
There we go. But yeah, so I don't know how many times we've said to him, you really gotta try and do.
I once listened to you and him chatting, and I can't remember, there was a guest, and that he had gone, you know, to audition on to do stand up and stuff like that, and then he gave up. I was thinking, why?
No, he never gave it enough.
You know, when I read Kevin Hart's book and read how many times he failed, and look at him now, right?
Yeah. No, he really, but I've given up on trying to convince him. I think it's one of those things that will just be like, nah, it's not going to happen.
It can't be Rob Ben. I mean, he's going to die doing traffic. I mean.
You do other things. He's a genuinely talented guy.
He's amazing.
So he'll find other things to do. Yeah.
What do you do when you're not on air, when you're not behind the microphone, screaming about a goal that's unbelievable, and and when you're not being hated by Kaizer Chiefs fans because they think every time you commentate about their team, they lose?
The power that people give me. Yeah. Shamara, maybe they do have a point, because more often than not, Lena, I look back at the season past.
Yeah.
My guy, I can probably count on a few fingers the number of games that I did where Chiefs won.
Wow.
And I've done a fair number of, in this past season, a fair number of Kaizer Chiefs games. And
I think SuperSport had something on Chiefs. They did it deliberately. Like, Chiefs, like, just give it to that man. Okay, we know what's going to happen.
Yeah. And to the point, even the last game of the season that I did was a Chiefs game. They drew.
Yeah.
So maybe,
when they really needed to win that game.
So you're going to put that on me as well. So actually, maybe they're onto something. Actually, one of our statisticians last season, because this thing started last season already, where people say, when every time you're there, Warjis.
Yeah.
And one of our stats guys actually compiled the numbers. And I did show I have a losing record for Chiefs. Yeah, but anyway, you ask you what else I do.
Yeah.
I think that what occupies my time the most is parenting. I think when I'm the first part of the morning, that's when I can have it to myself, because the kids are at school. I am trying to complete some studies.
I was going to talk about that. I mean, you're crazy, but I like that still.
I must finish it. I have a reputation as a non-finisher. I've got ADHD. We're not very good at finishing things. Yet we are good at starting. We're just full of ideas, but we don't see things through. So I have to, at some point, get this thing done, and I'm at that point now. So,
for what though? Is it because you want to finish, or because it's towards a goal?
Look, it's both. It definitely would want to finish because I started it, but it's also, and I'm still yet to figure out how I'm going to blend what I'm studying in with the rest of everything else that I do. Yeah. So
what are you studying, by the way?
I am studying international relations.
Okay.
So it's a subject matter of that interest. I'm genuinely interested in international relations, politics, and all of that.
If you finish, we're still looking for an ambassador to the US.
Yes. So if I finish in time, I could be a guy in DC. Yeah. So I have to figure out though how I'm going to, because I do think there is a way I can blend it in with everything else that I do, including the sport, by the way. Yeah. So that's what I'm working on. And then my afternoons I just spent taking my kids from there to there to
That's what parents do, right?
And that bleeds into the weekend as well when I'm not working. Yeah. That's what I do. So my full-time occupation is that really. But there's the hustle continues as well. You're always getting involved in various projects. There's something else that I've just recently been roped in to work on. So we'll see where that takes us. So, but you've got to constantly be hustling. I get it.
We hustle.
We are in the line of work where at any time.
At any given moment. Please don't listen to this boss. I mean, like, I know you're not going to do that.
I see what you did there. How did I almost miss that? Yes, at any given moment, Rams.
I was not even aware. I was not even aware. No.
Yeah, right.
So I promise you, you know, so at preparing for this conversation, I was tempted to come in wearing my Chelsea shirt, right? But I thought it would be impolite. I mean, you're a guest of mine, and I know how you treat your guests very well, and I thought I'm gonna do the same, right? You know, because every time I see your tweets, your posts on studio, you're always wearing your shirt. Another tough season for us now, right? I mean, look, I'm Chelsea. We're not at your level, but we're number 4 and we're also champions in Europe. But yeah.
Wow. Yeah, no, I tell you, being an Arsenal supporter, it builds character. that's what I'll say. Because, it's the hope that kills you, as they say. Every season you start with I mustn't say every season, because that's also a recent phenomenon.
It is recent, though.
Yeah,
I
think in the last 3 years.
Yeah.
No, I won't even go as far back as saying that from when Arteta came in, I had hoped that things would be. No, because I think it's only in the last 3 seasons that, including the one that's just ended, where you really have built yourself up to think like, actually,
it's possible.
It's possible. It's doable. And when it doesn't, and when you come so close, I often ask myself, is it better to come 8th or to come 2nd?
I liked Wenger because he had taught you that you work for position 4. I mean, he had created that culture.
But the thing about Wenger is that we took it for granted when he was there, that top 4 is automatic. You're going to be in the top 4. And
when he won it, he won it spectacularly. I mean, that invincible stuff was just something else.
I mean, he's immortalized, and that group of players are immortalized.
Yeah.
But I mean, when he was gone, and when he started struggling to finish in the top 4, then you start to see, okay, this is not as easy as it looks. We took it for granted. But hey man, the Premier League is the toughest league to win. I'm convinced.
I have no doubt about that.
I think
absolutely no doubt about it.
You can get that. I mean, ask Liverpool. People forget that Liverpool once collected a record number of points. I mean, getting into the 90s and still losing. 1 point. I mean, with the highest number of points and goals, and not win this thing. I remember at the time the stat was mentioned about how many other seasons that those points would have made you champion.
Easily.
But that's how it is.
Yep.
And you are chasing Guardiola's team. It can either make or break you. It broke Klopp in the end.
I mean, Klopp's first season, I remember him, Christmas. He says, I have never worked in a league where on Christmas Day I took a train home and I had to come back in the evening because we play in the next day. This is the toughest league ever.
It is a tough league. And you have to appreciate those that do get it. It's like, no. They're doing something right. But we live in hope.
I continue to wish you well, buddy. I continue to wish you well.
This particular season was heartbreaking because now you've got Spurs have won a European Cup before this is ridiculous.
It's crazy. Spurs never win a thing.
Spurs were really relegated, for crying out loud.
Exactly.
And they've got a European trophy.
But look, they're playing United. Anybody, even
exactly.
if Chiefs were to play United, they would, and you are commentating Chiefs would win.
Yes, there's that as well.
Yeah.
And to be fair, on that game, I mean, United never looked like winning the game.
No.
So
mostly the entire season, really.
Yeah, but I wish I had a different life, man, where I don't get so emotionally attached to sport, football in particular. And the thing about it is that it is even harder because now everything for me emotionally when it comes to sport is so invested in Arsenal because I work in the PSL, it has over the years diluted my fan experience.
Yeah.
I'm at work.
Yeah.
I no longer view even the club that I grew up supporting. I'm not that attached to them. I wish them well.
Yeah.
But I don't.
You're not gonna
lose
them,
my appetite.
Yeah.
No, we're not gonna mention them because you're not ready. You're not ready. They think they want it. We want to know you're not ready.
No, not ready. Nobody's ready for it. Huh?
Never be ready. So what was I saying? Yeah. So it's diluted the fan experience for me. I can't view football domestically as a fan that much anymore. it's also a bit like working in a polony factory, I imagine. You know what goes into that polony. You don't want to have anything to do with that polony after watching it being made. So, so when you see things behind the scenes, you see what football officials do, some of the stuff how they treat players, how they treat coaches.
Yeah.
It can put you off, So yeah, I've had to compartmentalize my thinking about how I engage with the game locally. So now all my emotional investment is with Arsenal, the club I've supported since 1989.
Wow.
Yeah.
Gee, that's been a long time.
Yeah.
If you were given a chance to commentate one EPL game, who would you like to be seeing on the pitch? Against Arsenal, I suppose.
Actually, I wouldn't want it to be Arsenal. Because again, too heavy, too emotionally attached.
Yeah.
That I would find it extremely difficult to be neutral.
Yeah.
So it would not involve Arsenal. But a Premier League game, Liverpool at Anfield against anyone really, but obviously a top side. It would be nice to see Arsenal play Liverpool at Anfield and beat them there, because it doesn't happen for so long.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen for so long. But pretty much against any of the top sides, Liverpool at home, I still think that provides. I've never been to Anfield, but the vibe and
I have a friend who went to Anfield once a year, every year for a long time, and he said it never gets
tired.
It doesn't get tiring at all.
Yeah.
It's just something else.
They do create a vibe of note there. I think most other clubs are, I shouldn't say that because there's a lot of passionate support amongst Premier League clubs, but they've got something going that they've had there, and they've been in the same ground for so many years.
Yeah.
So, an Arsenal is still trying to build a culture around supporting the club at that venue, I mean, even the songs and all of those things, you can transplant them, but, it takes time to build that kind of vibe at a grind. Yeah, so Liverpool against any of the top six teams, or that there's traditional top six teams, I would be happy to do that. Especially
I'm not gonna.
I would be neutral. I would be totally neutral.
I'm still not gonna take exception that whether it was Anfield or you wanted to mention any other team, you didn't mention Chelsea or you didn't say Stamford Bridge, but it's fine. I mean, I do understand this thing. We are supposedly traditional rivals. I'm not sure about that.
It's also weird to know someone your age who supports Chelsea. When did that start?
1996.
That would have been what? Hullit's time? Around Hullit's time.
So when Hullit went in there, and then there was Zola, and I just saw players that I really loved, and like Vieira, and then the team was like 70% black.
Yeah,
yes. These guys look like me. I mean, they were nobody, so I didn't support the Abramovich. Yes. So I'm not an Abramovich kind of person. He found me there. Yeah. I was already supporting the position 12 Chelsea, and I was okay with it. And I've stayed.
No, okay.
There were seasons when I was unhappy, but I stayed.
Ironically, that was also what attracted me to Arsenal. That it was at a time when we hardly used to see Premier League games. Well, it was the English First Division then.
Yeah.
But occasionally, SABC, if you remember, would show the FA Cup.
Yeah.
And even the day I decided I'm becoming an Arsenal fan was a rare midweek game that was shown. But it was because it was a title decider.
Yeah.
Arsenal versus Liverpool, May 26, Anfield. Arsenal went into the game Liverpool needed a draw of any sort. They would have been champions again, because that was the era when...
It was their era,
That was when they were winning everything.
Yeah.
And I used to go to school with a guy whose father traveled to the UK a lot. He was a Liverpool fan. So his father would travel to the UK and he'd bring him shirts and he'd bring him scarves, and we that thing, envy that turns into jealousy, that turns into hatred. So Nantina, man, because he had all this paraphernalia, he had this club that just kept winning all the time.
Yeah.
So that night when it happened, I was like, and the Arsenal actually had to win by 2 clear goals, and they pulled it off. I was like, and they had black guys. There were majority
black guys in the team.
No, they were still in a minority at the time.
But they were there.
But they were there.
Yeah.
And they were playing against a team that had one black guy, John Barnes.
John Barnes,
yeah.
right?
So I was like, nah, this will be the team I will support henceforth. And
The one thing I never declare is who I supported before Chelsea, and I don't tell people. Those who know, but
Yeah.
I don't talk about it. It's too
Really?
embarrassing. So
No, but it's in the past, so you can tell us.
no, when I get interviewed somewhere, I'll talk about it. I'm the one who interviews
Okay.
people here, so it's
Fair
different.
enough.
So I'm going to ask you, and because it's a podcast, and for now there's no BCCSA or whatever, I can say I'm going to ask you a gag question, right?
Yeah.
I hate asking these kind of questions, but they make for nice conversations. If you had to toss a coin and you were forced, there was gun to your head and good money, television or radio?
Or radio. Yeah, I get that a lot. Well, you're saying the money would, because
Yeah, the money is good on
both
either side.
sides.
Yeah, like,
Okay. Where money is not the issue.
it's not the issue at all.
Rams asking me to choose between my kids. Literally, that's how I feel about radio and television.
Yeah.
It's like my two kids.
And
But-
because you're not doing the same thing there, right? That's
No,
why
it's
you.
a challenge is very
Exactly.
different. It presents a very different challenge. Put it this way, I find radio definitely. Oh, by the way, to answer your question, with a gun to my head, it would definitely be radio.
Yeah.
And I think is it because, and it's not just because radio is where I started, but it's also just because about what radio
It's more magical.
allows you
man.
to do.
It's more magical, man. I
It's
always
about
tell
what-
people
yeah,
that,
what radio allows you to do, and that I love the fact that the radio. I mean, even what I do on television is a form of radio because it's not.
Yeah.
It's
not a presenter.
I'm not in front of a camera where the way I look influences
right? Yeah.
influences the way people think of me. It's purely about what I say, what comes out of my mouth. But no doubt, radio, because of as I said, what it allows me to do. I would definitely choose that, and I also think that we, depending on which part of the world you come from, but I think there's more longevity to radio. But
And it also allows us to come in without underwear or clothes below. Nobody sees us, right? It's just
It
drama.
doesn't matter what you look
Yeah.
like. It's the theater of the mind.
Not that
as
I've
they
done
say.
that, but I'm just saying.
Yeah, I have a colleague who has shown up. He's crazy. He's shown up into the studio with his not just pajamas, but a onesie.
Gee, I hope they don't. I know of a colleague who working for a music station at night, automated music,
Yeah.
and had a party in studio.
Wow.
Like,
'Cause he
but
can do
forgot,
that.
got drunk. the automated music came to an end. And all the listeners were hearing was the party.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Clearly, I don't imagine he kept his job.
No, he didn't keep his job. Yeah.
I didn't think so. Yeah, so no doubt, Rams, if you put a gun to my head and asked me to choose between one of my kids, it'll definitely be radio. Yeah.
And one last question. Probably part commentary, part question. One of the beautiful things I like about this industry is that it gives us also longevity, right? I mean, Wilson Bean Coast has been on air for 38 years or something to that effect,
an
right?
institution.
Yes.
As far as I'm concerned, they should just leave him there until he chooses to walk away. But
I don't think they'll touch him.
no, it wouldn't make any sense.
I don't think they'll touch
Why?
him. Also because the numbers are good, by the way, on the
Yes.
show. So
Yeah,
there's
but-
no reason to touch him.
Exactly, because
Yeah.
I'm like, really, Wilson's an institution.
Yeah.
It's like, just let him be.
Well, then it leads to the question. How much longer would you stay in this space, given a choice, when nobody
Yeah.
is saying, sitting in some office and saying, no, we need to
No, we need
reshuffle
to
now.
Yeah,
like
we need to
whatever.
reshuffle.
Yeah.
If it were up to me,
Yeah.
you know what? For as long as I can, man. If I can still drag myself to a studio,
Could even do it from home.
I
now.
mean, geez, I don't really know why we're not doing that
Yeah.
kind of thing. Although I still find that this, I do like the experience of being in an environment with the colleagues where we are, we can feed off each other, we can talk, communicate. It's, yeah, I didn't enjoy the working from home.
Yeah, that period was
during
horrible.
COVID.
Yeah.
Nah, I didn't like it much. I didn't really like it. I wanted to be in studio with everybody else. Yeah, it was too lonely. So, but if I can, man, how long was Larry King a presenter for?
Mate, I use Larry King all the time in my
Yeah.
examples of how to keep talent.
Yeah.
they had all the temptation to make him editor-in-chief or whatever it is. For
No.
just the microphone and his guest, and that's it.
What a guy.
For more than 2 decades.
What a guy.
Yeah.
You know, yeah. So why not? You know, Martin Tyler is still going. Martin
Do you
Tyler's
know
in
he
the
did a Kaiser
70s.
Chiefs and Highlands Park game, I think in 1979.
Goodness.
I remember, and part of his commentary he speaks about Shaka Ngobo. He says, Shaka Ngobo, you know, wearing jersey number 12, and he scored 12 goals this season. I remember that day.
You know a lot about Chiefs players, eh?
Well,
For a
I
Pirates fan.
I followed football for a long time, and pretty much there were and still are only 2 football teams. So you get to know about those.
Wow. You didn't write sport.
Never.
No, never. Of all the things you've covered.
I've dabbled. You know, I had a column, a football column or a sports column, but never was a football writer.
Right.
No.
Okay. Yeah. No. If I can be blessed to live as long as people like Martin Tyler and still be able to be lucid enough, because your brain also has to be still sharp and all of that. And the guy's incredible, man. How he does it is just remarkable. And I think he's one of those who will do it as well until he decides, I'm good. No one's going to tell him, no, we think you're good. Yeah. But yeah.
No editor will be that brave to tell Martin Tyler it's time to go, mate.
But, and I would love to hear from his point of view how living in the era of information overload and social media has changed what he does. Because I can tell you now, I find that side of things, the commentary side, to some extent, lesser extent radio, it is tough now. I find it much harder. And can you imagine, I started doing commentary at a time when we didn't have access to any information on players.
Nothing.
Whatever you got is what you mind yourself. Now we're in a time where, you know, people can correct you because they've got got
stats, right?
Got
they will
access
tell
to
you
the
now.
Same information. It makes it so hard because you are constantly being under scrutiny. So it makes it tough in this information overload things that
it makes us sharper too.
Yeah,
there's no laziness now.
No. Yeah, and it forces you to be sharper. So I feel like I'm working harder at my craft today than I was when I first started. You know, which seems crazy.
Yeah.
You know, I've been at this for 30 years now, but I still feel like I need to be. Yeah, I'm sharpening myself because I guess this competition is also tougher out there now. You know, so you've got to be on top of your game. But yeah, if God willing, blessed with good health, let's keep going, man. Why not? You know,
as long as if you go on, you go find that sting. My favorite sting, I think it was a Nigerian fellow, Titi.
Oh no, that's actually a South African.
Was he a South African guy?
It was a group of Amazulu guys.
No, not the song.
No,
there was a guy you were and he was interjecting like a TT.
I know who that is. Do you know who that is? Wow, Rams, you've been a loyal fan for a long time. He really has, this man. He keeps me on my toes as well. I should have you know. When I slip up, he's brutally honest as well. So I know exactly what you're talking about. That fella was from Zimbabwe.
Yes. During the elections in Zim
he was
or something.
involved with ZANU-PF or something like that. So I said to him, you sound like you know, some people are saying you're more of a distraction that's been put out there by ZANU-PF. And it's like, T.
I love that thing.
A distraction. I remember, wow, your memory. That is going back, quite a few years.
Yeah.
To the 2016, I would imagine. Yeah. It was very.
And I'm a crappy guy. You must know you're doing well if I can stay with you for that long, right?
Yeah.
I mean, people know I'm a Sabic.
Yeah, no. I always say to this guy, no. If you can keep rhymes, you've done well because he is tough. He is tough. You remind me of who was also very tough too. He was a review. Actually, did reviews for Sowetan. I think he wrote a radio column. What's Nyana's brother's name again?
Mokoni Muliti.
Mokoni.
Yeah.
He was vicious.
He was vicious. But,
he was vicious.
But of all the book reviewers, and we have to end this.
Yeah.
There's a guy called Thabiso. He also was a book reviewer for the Sowetan.
I know.
And I was a sub. I was a desk sub. I was freelancing as a sub editor at the Sowetan. And he did a review of Jock of the Bushveld. In fact, there was a movie review. They had redone the movie. Here's the intro. Yet another story of a white man and his dog in Africa. I will never, ever forget that intro. Ever. I remind him every time I see him.
Yeah.
Thabiso was hard.
He's a friend of mine.
You are Thabiso, by the way.
Yes, I know. It is just pure coincidence. He happens to be the older brother of one of my closest friends. Yeah.
He was a great writer.
Yes. He was a chipper of the old block. His father was a great writer.
Exactly, yes. So, but by the way, you're not less accepted. I mean, people must follow you on Twitter and see the comments that you make and like how you respond to people's stuff. But
your Twitter is another place. I wish if I didn't need it for work.
I always say that if I didn't need it, I would not be there.
No, it's too toxic.
I don't like that speech, but I don't engage much.
But,
I say what I say and I walk away.
Yeah.
Even when people come.
Yeah, but the thing is, I wonder why people feel the need to be like that on Twitter. No one is mean on Insta.
But Insta is about pics, right?
Yes.
Twitter, everybody's an expert on Twitter.
No. But even if you post the same picture that you post on Insta and you post it on Twitter,
yeah,
the responses, you're never going to get a mean response.
I think that people on Twitter think that Insta uses more data, so they're not on Insta. I got to wrap up. Thank you, mate. It's been wonderful having you here.
Always. Thank you so much. Anytime. I'm so happy I finally cracked an invite. But yeah, it was.
I will have you know, guys.
Right.
When this book came out, the very first person to interview me about this book and had read it, and I'm saying that because some kid recently, I'm not going to mention the radio station, asked me to interview me about the book and had not read it. They asked for 30 minutes, it lasted 4.5 minutes. I was so impertinent, like I couldn't take it. But this man did a beautiful job of interviewing me. The books I had just I received first three copies, and he got the first one, and he did a great job. Thank you, mate. You still have to do the same. Buy the book. Support. I mean, like, it's a bloody good book.
When's the sequel coming out?
It was supposed to be at the end of this year, but something came up with the publisher, so we decided to hold back a bit. But the copy's there. The copy almost done. So, but it's not going to come out this year. The other way you can support this content is to subscribe. One button, like, done. That's all I'm asking for. And then share with others. From me, Rams Mabote, goodbye and God bless.